We're doing a series of vlogs looking at where we're at and where we're going after 3 years of off-grid permaculture homesteading. Today I'm going to be sharing about off-grid cold storage, but before I do, check out this video that Caleb got when he went out to take care of the ducks this morning. Pretty cool, huh? We're super excited because we've had geese hatch out ducklings before, we've had chickens hatch out ducklings, but this is the first year that we've had ducks hatch out ducklings, so that's pretty fun. They've tried in the past, but we've had snakes come in and eat their eggs, or they've just given up after a while, haven't sat the whole way through. So they made it. We've got 2 little ducklings so far, and there's 4 or 5 sitting ducks and tons of eggs under them, so we'll see what happens. Okay, now to off-grid cold storage. When we moved onto our land, we had a decision to make about power. We could either pay $1,000 to get electric pulled to our property, and so we thought about that option. We could go off-grid, as Michael Bunker has written about, which means no power, just all manual. Or we could get a solar system, and that's the decision we made, was to get a small solar system, and the main reason we got that was for cold storage. So here is the main reason we got solar power. It is just a small, as you can see Jay standing there, it's a very small ice chest. One of the, almost the smallest that we could get, because our power system is not very big. And we have all these ice blocks here, and we use those to rotate through our cold box inside. It's very small. It fits just a couple things of milk and a few other items. When we go shopping, we pack it entirely full. We just put the milk in here for a couple hours to quick chill it after milking, because our cold box doesn't chill it very quickly. So that's why the milk's in there. It's just in there for a short time. But we have to leave space so that we can fit those in every morning. And in the winter time, we can also utilize other methods because it's cold out. But in the summertime, this is all we have for freezer space. So those ice blocks, we rotate in and out of this old antique ice box. And if you watched Cabin Tour Part 1, I shared why we are eventually going to replace this. If you look inside, it's a super rusty. It doesn't seal well, and it's fine for in the winter time because this corner of the house is really cold. We actually have a little bin here where we put fruits and veggies in the winter time, and some of it will even freeze. It gets so cold in here. So that's where we're at to this point. We've got our little freezer and our little antique ice box that we've been using since we moved into our cabin. Now on to lessons learned and some goals for the future. Forgot to mention also, in the winter time I use a big canning pot to store extra things in the winter time, because the temperatures stay really cold, and so that gives me just a little bit more space to keep some frozen items or cold items. And I just set it out on our patio and tie it up so critters won't get into it. Okay, so the first lesson learned about off-grid cold storage is that ice boxes, the antique ones anyway, be really careful about. You just need to make sure that they seal well, that they're not all rusty inside, that they're actually going to work for you. Some of them are truly out of commission because they're so old, but I know people have used them and have found good ones that seal well and that work for them. Another thing we learned pretty early on about our ice chest is that it gives off a lot of heat, and we originally put it inside our cabin. It was heating up our cabin in the summertime, and so we actually moved it outside, and that's been best because in the wintertime we can actually shut it off quite a bit, which is great because in the wintertime we often don't have enough solar power anyway, so we can shut off our freezer off and on quite a bit in the wintertime, and it stays still quite frozen. And here has been another huge lesson for us. This is our soon-to-be root cellar, and for a year or more it was just a big hole in the ground that kept filling up with water. It actually got so full it overflowed once, and we've just come to find out that root cellars can be quite a project. And even if you think you have all the money that you need and all the resources that you need to get it finished, it just can take a long time. So we're really glad it's almost finished. It's something that we started a long time ago. We thought we had the finances for. We purchased all these smaller blocks when we first moved onto our land, thinking that's what we would use for the root cellar, but found out they were too small. So we're glad we've got the block. The little block has been very helpful for lots of things on the homestead, but it's actually the bigger block that we needed. So we had to put it off a whole year after already digging the hole. And then just one thing after another happened. My husband went off to work and wasn't able to work on it, and so eventually it'll get done, and we look forward to having a root cellar. It's going to be really nice having it right next to our house, and eventually this whole side of our house will also have a covered patio over it, and so we look forward to that. So if you want to put in a root cellar, maybe try and find someone who's already put one in and has been successful at it and gotten it to work really well. That would be a huge help. One final lesson I'll share. There's many other lessons related to cold storage, but we've discovered over the past years that our children just don't like doing ice blocks, transferring the ice blocks from the freezer into the cold box. Especially in the summertime, it needs to be done multiple times a day, and it's not a hard task, it's just something they really don't enjoy. So that takes me to goals for the future. We really are looking forward to one day building an ice house. It's something we haven't researched much yet, but we would love to do. Okay, I have no idea if it would be possible, but here would be an ideal place for an ice house if we could do it. This is our cabin wall over here, and this back corner is where our pantry is and where our current antique ice box is. So I was thinking it'd be great if we could build the ice house in here between the root cellar and the cabin. So the reason I was thinking of an ice house there is we could actually maybe utilize the cold from the ice house by piping it into our little pantry area here and do some sort of a built-in cold box on the wall of the pantry. So then the cold from the ice house would also keep our cold box cold, and we wouldn't have to rotate ice blocks out from our freezer anymore. I have no idea if that would work. Maybe there's someone out there who's done that successfully, and I would love to be able to find someone who's done it. So if you have any ideas about building an ice house or whether something like that would work, please share in the comments. Hey guys! What are you playing with? A guy. Thanks for taking care of a little bit for me. Hey, I have a question for you guys. Yeah. Here's the question. How would you feel if you no longer had to do ice blocks?
I like it.
Would that be cool?
Yeah.
It'd be awesome if we could figure out an ice house system that could also provide coolness for a super insulated inside cold box. We'll see. In the meantime, until we get an ice house built, we do definitely want to get a different cold box so that we're not dealing with a rusty, inefficient cold box in the summertime. So we may just get an old, broken down, small refrigerator or something like that. And of course, we have the goal of completing our root cellar. It's also going to double as a storm shelter for us, so that's going to be wonderful to have. It's not super big, but I think it's going to be big enough to do what we need it to do. And I'll just mention real quick, it is partially above ground because we hit bedrock, so that's as deep as we could go here. And so we are going to try and mound up on some of the sides if we can to help and definitely insulate it as well. Another goal that we have is to develop our spring. We've got a really nice year-round spring, and so we'd like to somehow build a little spring house over that and utilize that for cold storage somehow, just like they did in the olden days. So that's kind of off in the future. We're not real familiar with what that would look like, but it's a dream that we have. Alright, that's about it for off-grid cold storage on our homestead. Thanks for watching. Please share and have a great day.
Here she goes, riding on her bike, her first time.